Now, we apply finite element method for continuous system, where we will solve this ordinary differential equation between x equal to 0 and x equal to capital L with these two boundary condition. At x equal to 0 u is prescribed, and at x equal to L du dx is prescribed. The first step is to derive the variational statement as we have learned in our first chapter. So, this is the variational statement. Now, we will apply finite element method to this statement. So, the very first step is discretization. We take two element. So, our entire domain is from 0 to capital L. We take one element up to L by 2. So, this is our element 1 and this is our element 2. Now, we will derive elemental equation from the variational statement. Let us consider one element having left coordinate x e1, right coordinate x e2 is the element number. First, there is one mapping involved. So, this is our physical domain, and this is our master domain. So, this is in xi. Each finite element will be mapped to this master domain to facilitate the Gaussian quadrature rule. Now, we define two shape function. So, this is our xi coordinate and this is n1. So, n1 we define as 1 minus xi by 2. So, if you put xi equal to minus 1, n1 is 1, if xi equal to 1, n1 is 0 and n1 vary linearly. So, this is our one shape function n1, and there is another shape function which is 0 at xi equal to minus 1 and which is 1 at xi equal to 1. If we write, then you can see at xi equal to minus 1 n2 is 0 and at xi equal to 1 n2 is 1. So, these are two shape function. Now, any coordinate between x e1 and x e2 can be written as n1 x e1 plus n2 x e2. So, this is function of xi. So, thus we express x in terms of xi with this shape function. So, this is the mapping function. If you put xi equal to -1 here, you get the left coordinate. If you put xi equal to 1, you will get right coordinate. So, this can be written as so, this is a 1 cross 2 row vector, this is a column vector. So, we can write in this matrix notation x e as n x e hat, whereas these are nodal coordinate. We have two node 1 and 2. So, this is nothing but nodal coordinate. In the same way, we can express dependent variable, that is u. Here we are solving for this variable u, how u is varying as a function of x. So, we can express this variation of u in one element in terms of this shape function. So, we can write this u equal to n1 ue1 n2 ue2 in matrix vector relation n1 n2 ue1 ue2, matrix notation same n and it is ue hat. One is row vector, another one is column vector. Here these nodal values of u are unknown. We are just expressing the variation within the element with this shape function and nodal values. Now, the variation v within the element also can be written as this relation. So, this hat are nothing but the nodal values. So, this is ue. Now, here we are using same mapping for coordinate and dependent variable. When these two mapping are same, then it is called isoparametric element. Same mapping for dependent variable ue and xe, that is coordinate. This is called isoparametric mapping. So, we have xe as a function of xi, n1, n2, xc1, xc2. Now, we can get the derivative of xe with respect to xi as this is that vector if you see, this is the expression of n1 and n2. If we differentiate with respect to xi, we get minus half so this is nothing but the length of the element E, LE by 2. In the similar way, we can write dUE by d xi as this matrix we can write as B U E hat. Now, we can write dUE dx as dUE d xi, it should be dxe by dxc d xi. For this element, dxc d xi is LE by 2. So, it will be 2 by LE and dUE d xi is B UE hat. So, this is your dUE dxc, and in the same way you can derive dVE dxc as 2 by LE B VE hat. So, let me summarize the relations we have derived so far. Xe equal to n xe hat, UE equal to n UE hat, VE equal to n VE hat, where n is n1 n2, where n1 is 1 minus xi by 2, n2 is 1 plus xi by 2. dxc is LE by 2 d xi, dUE dxc is 2 by LE B UE hat, and dVE dxc is 2 by LE B VE hat, where B is minus half plus half. So, these are the relations we have right now. Now, let us see. So, this is our variational statement. Let us write this variational statement for an arbitrary element, that is from xe1 to xe2 dUE dxe dVE dxe dxe equal to V E x e square 4 dx e plus V E at x equal to L. We can write this because the variational statement is valid for every element. Now, we can substitute different quantities derived from finite element relations. So, we can write this due dxe dve dxe. So, if you see the expression of due dxe, this b is 1 cross 2 and ue is 2 cross 1. Now, finally, this multiple, that is one scalar quantity. So, we can write this expression as we have simply multiplied this 2 by L E with 2 by L E. Now, this is the transpose. So, 1 cross 2, 2 cross 1, 1 cross 2, 2 cross 1. Finally, this will give us 1 cross 1, which is this scalar quantity. So, this we can write 4 by L E square and dxe is nothing but Le by 2 d xi. Now, we have expressed everything in terms of xi. So, in xi coordinate the limit is -1 to 1. So, this is about our LHS. In RHS, again this VE we can write as VE transpose N transpose x e square by 4 Le by 2 d xi -1 to 1 plus this VE we can write VE transpose N transpose at x equal to L. Now, in the first term, if you see this nodal quantity VE hat and UE hat, they are not function of xi. Also, our B matrix is constant. For linear element, B matrix come as constant. For quadratic element, this B matrix is function of xi. This quadratic element is higher order finite element, which we will learn in next part. So, here we can take 2 by LE VE transpose B transpose B UE hat, all we can take outside the integration because they are not function of xi, and then this d xi give us this integration give us 2 -1 to 1. minus 1 to 1. Here n and this x c both are function of xi. Now, this B transpose B give us this 4 will not be there. I have taken this 4 to 2 by LE by 8. Now, this variation V e is arbitrary. So, we can select this variation V e hat as the first row 1 remaining 0, which gives us the first row as non-zero. And if we take V e hat as only the second entry 1, then we get the second row. In the similar way, we can write this equation as 1 by LE UE hat using arbitrariness of variation with this argument. So, here you can see this quantity is a 2 cross 2 matrix, this is a 2 cross 1 vector, this N transpose is also 2 cross 1 which is multiplied with scalar quantity, this is also 2 cross 1. So, we have a system of K E U E hat F E. So, this is 2 cross 2, 2 cross 1, 2 cross 1. This K E is called element stiffness matrix, this F E is called element load vector. So, we have this element equation for this problem. Now, we have discretized our domain in 2 element. this is element 1 and this is element 2. We will see this elemental equation for each element separately. For element 1, your nodal coordinate is 0 L by 2. Now, we can write x e as n 1 here x e 1 is 0. So, it is n 2 L by 2. We will solve this problem for L equal to 4. So, our x e is 2 n 2. Now, L e, that is length of the element, is L by 2, which is 2. So, we can write our element stiffness matrix for element 1 as 1 by 2 . Now, the element load vector for element 1 is L e is 2, 2 by 8. This n transpose, this quantity is nothing but n 1, n 2. Now, for this element x e is 2 n 2 whole square dxi. So, that is so this will be 4 and here 2 square will be 4, these 2 4 will cancel each other. Now, we know as n 1 equal to 1 minus xi by 2, n 2 equal to 1 plus xi by 2. So, we can integrate this quantity between the limit minus 1 to 1. If you integrate, you will see F e, that is element load vector for first element, become 0.1667 and 0.5. Now, the other term of the load vector, that is this n transpose at x equal to L, this will not come for this element because this element is from 0 to L by 2. So, only the first term will contribute for the load vector of first element. So, this is our first element load vector. For element 1, this is our element stiffness matrix, which will be multiplied with U1 and U2, and this is our element load vector. Now, this first part of the element load vector, it involves some integration for which we will use Gaussian quadrature. Now, I will show you how to use MATLAB to make a program for such integration. If you recall Gaussian quadrature, for any integration between -1 to 1, we have to calculate the integrand at Gauss point xi I, and we have to multiply it with the respective weight, and there will be summation of this f xi I w I for n number of Gauss point. Depending on the order of Gaussian quadrature, that is this capital N, this Gauss point and corresponding weight will change. So, one essential step is we have to calculate the integrand at Gauss point. For our case, for any arbitrary element, the integrand is this n transpose x c square. So, let us see how to use MATLAB for this integration. This is one MATLAB function whose input is xi, that is the Gauss point, and this x1 and x2 are nothing but that left and right coordinate of the element. This function returns the value of integrand at Gauss point. Here n1 is this and n2 is this for our linear FEM. This is that xe, that is x coordinate at the Gauss point, n1 x1 plus n2 x2. x1 and x2 are nodal coordinate. If you recall that f1, that is the first element, is n1 x square and n2 x square. This was our integrand, n1 x c square, n2 x c square. So, this function returned the value of the vector integrand at the Gauss point. Now, we call this function func1 in this program. So, these are the three Gauss point xi1, xi2, xi3. We are using 3-point Gaussian quadrature. These are corresponding weight. We are taking L equal to 4. So, for first element, our left coordinate is 0, right coordinate is L by 2, and here you can see this is the value of the integrand at xi1. This func1 is returning the value of the integrand n1 x square n2 x square. Our integrand is a vector, first element, second element, and for both element your LE by 8 is 1 by 4. So, you can see we are doing this summation f at xi1 multiplied with W1, f at xi2 multiplied with W2, f at xi3 multiplied with W3. So, this is that integration, and this by 4 which is outside the integration. So, this I1 is nothing but the first part of the load vector for element 1. Now, for element 2, the only thing is changing this left and right point, that is our x1 is now L by 2 and x2 is capital L. So, this is that x1 and x2, and this I2 is the first part of the load vector for element 2, again using Gaussian quadrature. So, the only thing which is changing between element 1 and element 2 is the coordinate, left and right coordinate of the element. Now, if you run this, this is the main MATLAB function which is calling this function func1, that is the integrand. Now, this is that I1 which I already wrote, this is that I1 and this is that I2. Remember, this is the first part of the load vector. Now, for element 2, our stiffness matrix is again for second element also LE is L by 2. So, that is 2. Now, associated U are U2 and U3. And if you see the output of that MATLAB program, so this is the first part of element load vector. Now, because x equal to L is not there in first element, the contribution of this part is 0 for element 1, but for element 2 we have to calculate this n transpose at x equal to L, which is the second node of the element. So, this is nothing but value of n1 and n2 at second node. So, for second node value of n1 is 0 and value of n2 is 1. So, here our total load vector is Now, we have element equation for element 1 and element 2. We have to assemble these two equations. Before assembly, we have to give the global degree of freedom number corresponding to each row and each column. For element 1, these are global degree of freedom 1, first column, global degree of freedom 2, for element 2, 2, 3, 2, 3. These are the global degree of freedom associated with the row and the column. Now, let me write the assembled equation in next slide. So, only this entry are repeated, that is 2 comma 2. So, if you write the assembled equation, this will be half, this will be the 2 comma 2 entry 1 plus 1, you can see this will be 1 plus 1 2, and there is no entry for 1 comma 3 and 3 comma 1. So, this is our global degree of freedom 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 and 3. Now, for load vector, you can see the only again this 0.5 and these two will be added because these are corresponding to second row. So, this will be this will be 2 point, I am adding these two entry 0.5 and 1.8333, and the last one is 3 point. So, this is corresponding to 1 first degree of freedom, second degree of freedom and third degree of freedom. So, this is the assembly step. Now, we have to impose boundary condition. That is u1 equal to 3. For this problem, we have two boundary condition. One is u1, that is the left boundary, it is 3, and in right boundary the boundary condition is in terms of du dx. So, here the differential equation is of second order. So, after you do the variational statement, then in boundary condition This du dx is nothing but the Neumann boundary condition or natural boundary condition, which is taken care in the variational statement itself. So, this is for that Neumann boundary condition. You remember that boundary term will be v du dx and that will be 0 to L. Now, at x equal to 0, u is prescribed. So, v is 0. Therefore, the boundary term at x equal to 0 is not there, and the Neumann boundary condition at x equal to L. So, v du dx, if you do integration by parts, you will see the boundary term will be v du dx. So, du dx is 1, therefore, at x equal to L, this boundary term remain. So, Neumann boundary condition always appear in the variational statement. It is already utilized. We have to only impose the Dirichlet or the essential boundary condition, which is in terms of the dependent variable, which is u, that is at left node it is 3. So, this we will impose where in the step of imposition of boundary condition. Now, we know we have to eliminate first row and first column. So, if you eliminate first row and first column, now because it is non-zero boundary condition, so load vector will change. We know the new load vector will be F2 bar, F3 bar, which will be F2 minus K21 U1. So, the first index is which row I am considering, that is the second row, and the second index is the index of prescribed degree of freedom, that is 1. So, this is minus K21 and F3 bar will be, again I am considering third row and for prescribed degree of freedom U1. Therefore, the second index is 1. So, now K21 is minus half, this is our K21. So, minus half and U1 is 3 and K31 is 0. So, this term is 0 because K31 is 0. So, it will remain as it is 3.8333. So, final load vector will be now. If we solve this equation, then U2 will be and U3 will be thus for our domain, that is 0 to L equal to 4, these are the coordinate. U1 is 3, U2 is 15 point and U3 is thus we know the value of dependent variable u at 3 nodes. If we want to find the value of u at any intermediate point, then we have to do post processing. Let me explain this with one example. Suppose we want to find the value of u at x equal to 0.7. So, the first step is we know this point x equal to 0.7 that appear in the first element. So, for first element n1 x1 is 0, n2 x2 is 2. So, 0.7. So, the first term is 0, for second term so the xi value is minus 0.3. Then u is n1 u1 plus n2 u2 1 minus xi by 2 u1 1 plus xi by 2 u2. We know the nodal values of u, we know the value of xi. So, it will be 0.65 u1 plus 0.35 u2. Now, if you put this value of u1 and u2, this will be 7.3166. Thus, the value of u at x equal to 0.7 is 7.3166. So, this entire steps is post processing. We can find the value of u at any intermediate point. Thus, to summarize, we first construct the elemental equation from the variational statement. For linear finite element, we can write dependent variable u in this matrix vector form, where n1 and n2 are the shape function, linear shape function, which make a linear relation between nodal u value u1 and u2. There is one mapping involved in order to use the Gaussian quadrature rule of integration. We get this relation using chain rule of differentiation, and then we construct the elemental equation for any arbitrary element between xc1 and xc2. Now, then we calculate this element load vector, which we have to do using Gaussian quadrature rule. We have understood how to automate this integration using MATLAB program. If you recall, we can use the same MATLAB program for any number of element, only the left and right coordinate will change from one element to another. Thus, we can write the elemental equation for each element. One important note for this problem, that we have some Neumann boundary condition which is appearing in variational statement at x equal to L, which finally reflect in the second element by this term, and thus we can construct the elemental equation for both elements. After that, we give the global degree of freedom number, then we assemble. After assembly, this non-zero essential boundary condition is imposed in the usual framework. Because it is non-zero, our load vector got changed, and finally we solve this equation to get nodal values of u, u2 and u3. After that, we can find value of u at any intermediate point using the post processing. For that x, we have to find the xi, and we can get the value of u using summation ni ui.